250 only. But if you are very much interested, probably you can go for that. Since it's 250 only, total strength will be 250, and we are covering end-to-end everything, starting from fundamental to lot of things. Deep dive session for dedicated containers. Right. So we are filling the agenda very shortly. All the most of the CFP is going to finalize. 40% ready, and people are coming from probably you can see a lot of good people, good technical experts are coming from AWS also, as well as from community also, right? So anybody wanted to join, I invite them. So this is just one announcement probably.
What exactly we are just focus on containers and all those things?
Container and Kubernetes. So
Kubernetes.
all the services related to container and Kubernetes, if you wanted to deliver a solution, what all things AWS provides.
And deep dive means it is going to have a technical sessions as well?
Exactly, technical session with them.
And good thing is there is no time limit for someone who is going to present. So here we have a limit, 1 hour, 1.5 hours. There is no such limit, right?
Yeah, so what we want is to justify the topic. So if somebody says it's a very interesting topic, but 15-20 minutes is sufficient for that, so we'll do that. Somebody say it's a 40-45 minutes, then we'll do that. So we wanted to justify the subject, the depth. So we'll adjust that timing also according to topics. So ultimately, what we wanted to cover, starting from fundamental of container to Kubernetes, that was the first session. Then we wanted to cover scaling and performance of the container. Then we wanted to cover migration also, modernization also, how to migrate to containerized platform. Then again, security of the containers, that also we wanted to cover. Then modernization of the container, and some slightly miscellaneous, recently I think even data analytics and machine learning on containers. Right? So those topics will be deep dive topics. Thank you. Yeah, observability, monitoring observability also one of the topic for containers.
Sir, what are containers?
You have to attend. This is off topic, so I cannot tell.
So in CNCF you can cover container. What is it to that? I think we have already planned, right?
We have done multiple workshop, and what you can say is even talk also here in AWS Community Vadodara also.
So
In future we are
next session of CNCF.
Yeah, that will be on container.
That will be on
actually.
container.
Next
So you
CNCF
get to
session
know
is on
what
container and
container.
Dockerization, so you can attend it.
So
So
nowadays,
it will be from scratch actually. What is container? What is Dockerization? So I think that will be very helpful.
Vadodara is flourishing with lot of meetups, goods for all, right? It's good. Initially, probably when we started, there was only one meetup.
Yes.
Now there are so many. It's good actually. Good for. It has to be we should confuse which meetup should I attend. So that is now it happens. So that's good.
For most of us, lot of us who are at least part of my core member of AWS group, they are occupied every Saturday.
Yeah,
Right? So there is now Nitin Bhai has also started Java community, JavaScript. The Rajesh Bhai is handling Java user group. So JavaScript, we already have having CNCF, and there is Laravel and GDG running in AWS as well, right? So there is a lot of things to learn. You choose what you want to learn and grow, right? Basically, we want to make Vadodara tech city like Bangalore or Hyderabad or whatever. And another good thing, Nilesh Bhai is going to have a session in Pune AWS meetup group on 27th May. 20. Yeah, right after the AWS summit. So, and he is one of the AWS community hero. And that's a proud moment for us every time he comes from Ahmedabad to here just to support us. Otherwise, he doesn't have any. He doesn't. His intention is to get pure to help the community grow. Another thing, so there is in this next week, 18th May, it's AWS Summit. I think it might be, I don't know whether it's too late. But
it's already closed.
So
Registration is already closed.
There is a virtual edition happening that you can, 25th of May, you can view it from your home. So it's a virtual edition, you can be part of it. So you'll get what's happening in AWS ecosystem. So, and and I think 3 or 4, how many people are we going? At least 5 to 6 people are attending AWS Summit. So if you have any question, what we experienced, what we learned, you can share that as well.
So in Pune, I am presenting kind of mixing two technology. One is very old and one is cloud. So my topic I have created is Newton 3 laws of motion with cloud security. So that probably maybe once we can take that meetup also. So how to convert Newton's 3 law of motion into cloud security. So that was the topic I have. Please start. Okay, so we will start with AWS for machine learning now.
Okay, so we will start with AWS for machine learning now. So whenever there is a machine learning problem, first of all we need to collect a lot of data. So there is a huge amount of data that is required. So if you are doing document classification, let's say if a document is a bank statement or a pay slip, if you are doing a financial document classifier, right? So if it is a credit report or something like that, you need a lot of samples in order to classify, right? So samples you can collect and put them in the AWS S3. So S3 is basically a storage system that AWS provides. So first of all, you need to have data collection. So you will need probably images of the every page, and in every page you will classify into the relevant document, right? So you will collect all the images, you will place them in the S3. Then when you get these images, you can run downstream tasks if the you can collect the text out of image if it is a searchable document, for example, right? If it is a electronically generated document, there are a lot of extractors by which you can collect the exact position of each and every character, right? So you have the position of the character, you have the entire image, you can feed that into the system, and then probably you can get it tagged, and then you can train your model on top of that. So data processing would involve resizing the images to a certain size that your model takes in as an input. So first you collect data, then you process that data, and once the data is processed, every image is needs to have a particular exact size that your model takes in as an input, right? So for some models it may be 224 cross 224, a 3-channel image maybe. Some models might take in a grayscale image as an input. So you need to do some post processing on top of your data, and then you give your data to the model. So once you have you can use a pre-trained model, or you can probably use you can train the entire model from scratch. So that comes under model training and tuning. Then you go for the model evaluation. So as we earlier discussed, there are a lot of evaluation metrics like precision, recall, F1 score, confusion metrics. So based on these metrics, you can make the decision whether you want to train the image, or how is your how is the performance of your model. So you may find out that it has become biased to some type of image. So if you have fed in a lot of bank statements, the model would predict the bank statements accurately, but it won't be able to predict any other supplementary document, right? So you need to random sample out of the data set that you have, so that it doesn't pick every time, it doesn't pick the bank statement. So let's say it picks bank statement with a 50% probability, right? So you have to do some kind of sampling. So that comes in the model training and tuning phase, right? So whenever you train the model, you take in the random sample data so that your model doesn't become biased. There are a lot of other techniques you can use to derive the you can do feature engineering of the image, right? You can use algorithms like PCA to reduce the dimensionality, or maybe find the covariance of two images, and if they are very similar to each other, you can remove one of the images, right? So you can reduce the reduce the amount of images that you have in bank statements if you have a large number of images, right? So these all comes under like the feature engineering and all comes under data pre-processing, and sampling and all comes under model training. So you can sample your data before training, right? Then you can evaluate the model, and based on the evaluation you can make the decision whether to train your model again, or you want to go ahead with the deployment, right? So this depicts that diagram. Then you again carry out feature engineering based on the result. तो क्या result मिला है उसके basis पे you can use techniques and then retrain the model. Data augmentation is another part. When you are dealing with images, you have to, like, you won't have a lot, like you don't have a lot of data, so you augment that image. You probably add blur in some portion of the image so that the model can learn relevant information. So like you blur out some data, you increase the size of some text part of the data, probably you change the dimension of the bounding box of the data, right? So every text is in a PDF. Let's say there is an electronic PDF. Each word in that PDF will have an associated bounding box, right? Inside this bounding box, I have encountered this text. So whenever you are training, you can change the size of that bounding box, right? So that is called as augmentation. You're changing the values inside the you're changing the position of the text, and you are telling the network to figure out which is the correct position, right? So you have to have some like some amount of incorrect data, so it can learn better. The model can learn better. So that is done under augmentation. And then you deploy, and this is the entire pipeline. So whenever any new data comes up, if you have the like a predefined amount or more than that in your like database, so like let's say you have 1,000 images coming in, right? So you have mentioned that after every set of 1,000 image I'll retrain my model, right? So again the entire pipeline is repeated. You can either fine tune or you can retrain the entire model based on your requirement. So as I mentioned earlier, fine tuning is the process where you don't change the entire network in terms of weight. You just update a few weights or a few layers, and you fit in the new data that is coming up, right? So that is known as fine tuning. So yeah. Now this is the workflow of the Sagemaker notebooks. So Sagemaker notebooks can fetch your raw data. It can pre-process that data, and then you can dump that data in the another bucket. So that would be your training data, and then you can train the model on instances. And later on, you can place this model so that every model has a MAR file that is associated with it. So whenever you build any model, you have to, like, you cannot keep it with yourself, right? You need to put it in inference. You want people to use that model, right? So this model will be like, let's say .pt file or a MAR file, which would contain all the weights in that model as well as the model pipeline. So whenever you load that model, you would be able to run it through inference, right? So you store those models in the S3 bucket, and then you probably deploy that model somewhere, and you'll be able to run data through that model. So this is one of the resources that you can learn from. So Sagemaker has its resources. So we will look into that only. So this is a link wherein you can kickstart your journey with Sagemaker. So all of the options are like mentioned here. So there are a lot of predefined algorithms like XGBoost, random forest, decision trees that you can use directly from Sagemaker. You just have to feed in the data in the relevant format. So you have to remove the column headers of the data, and you have to place the label in the first column, and then you are good to go. You can straight away use this data in the Sagemaker. As I mentioned earlier, it provides you the algorithms. You can directly use it, and you can get the predictions. You can train the model, and then you can get the prediction out of that using the data, right? So there are these. If you go ahead in the notebook section, the training sections, you can find these algorithms, right? So if we talk about unsupervised, there may be clustering, k-mean clusters, principal component analysis. So these are all the algorithms that it provides. So tabular data also has its own algorithms. So you can use them as per your requirements. And like if you want to get started, you can refer this documentation. So SageMaker features are also there. This is, as we just discussed right now, the entire workflow. It's a different diagram. Now these are different instances that SageMaker provides you for your training tasks. So this is the, like as mentioned, this is the lower demand workloads. So T instance is like when you don't like, you have a small notebook and you are experimenting something, then you can use this T instance. Then M instance are generally used for when you have standard memory and GPU consumption. So you require memory as well as equal amount of GPU. Then these are memory optimized. So whenever you would have to load a lot of images or the model structure is very huge, then you would have to use the memory instance. So you are keeping the data in the memory while you are going in the training phase, right? So you are caching the data in your memory to make your model fast. Otherwise, you will have to load the data all over again. So there, the application of memory comes in, right? You have pre-processed the data and you are storing that data for the model to train, right? If you pre-process every time before training, it will consume a lot of time and your GPU. So you need to have a high memory in order to store this pre-cached data so that you don't have to every time pre-process the data. So that is memory. Compute, so like we are all aware about. So like if the model architecture is huge, there are a lot of weights involved, it would obviously need more compute, like in order to update weights. And you know, if we want to execute a model in, let's say, if we are feeding 3 or 4 images at a time, then it would require a lot of memory. So we can synchronously feed in, let's say, 4 images into a model, like as much compute the instance allows. So if, let's say, if an instance like it has a T4 something, I think there is a GPU. So if an instance has that GPU, you can process probably 4 images of 224 plus 224 in a BERT in image classifier model, right? BERT is a language model. So let's say layout model or something like that. So you can process 4 images simultaneously. So that is the advantage of using GPUs. Your training time will be significantly reduced. And the other the instances are for inference. So for inference also you would need a GPU, because there can be a huge load. A lot of people are requesting on your model, right? So you will have to process all of the requests simultaneously. You will have to pick in, let's say, 10 images at a time and process all the images through your model and predict, right? So you will have to have a GPU or a memory in the inference instance as well. So these are the different types of instances that SageMaker provides. And this is the core structure of SageMaker. So you can use like any of them based on your requirement. So this is the fully automated structure wherein everything is provided by SageMaker. You just have to give it the data and it will give you the model, right? The entire pipeline will be set up by SageMaker. You can use your script as well. So like if you want to if you have created some script that uses, let's say, PyTorch as a framework, right? So PyTorch framework is supported in SageMaker, right? So you'll be able to place your script and straight away process your data, right? So these things will be abstracted by SageMaker. You won't have to install all the libraries and everything. That will be provided to you. So if you have your custom script and you want to use a specific versions of the libraries, then you can do that as well. And the last option is the entire complete automation can be done using the SageMaker part. So this is Amazon SageMaker. So if you want to start using SageMaker, what I would suggest is you go ahead and create like SageMaker notebooks, for instance. Like if you create this SageMaker notebooks, I have one created. You can choose the instance type. Like I have mentioned all the instances and what each instance is used for in the earlier slide. You can probably look into that, and as per your requirement, you can create an instance, and then you can run the notebook on top of that instance, right? I have created one notebook. You can straight away create it. It's a simple process, and then like you can probably open that in AWS provides you a platform, so it is integrated with Jupyter Lab. You can open your notebooks in Jupyter Lab and start performing your experiments. So SageMaker provides you with examples. So these examples would have a lot of pre-built code in there. So when we look at, see, the Hugging Face test classification is there. So these examples have a cost associated with that. So because they are providing you with a pre-built course, pre-built code, they'll have a cost associated with them. So if you use these notebooks in any form, you'll have to pay a cost for training your model and everything. So the entire workflow is defined in here, and all the steps along with how to use SageMaker are mentioned. So you can probably start with any of these notebooks and experiment. Because this notebook is hosted on an instance, you also won't face any delays or like the memory related or GPU related issues, right? It would satisfy that. So probably you can start your SageMaker journey from here. Yeah, there are a lot of different SageMaker notebooks here. So if you guys XGBoost related books, so these are the most frequently used algorithms in machine learning. So you can probably visit that and start your journey with SageMaker. I think we will create we'll do a hands-on workshop on SageMaker also, probably sometime in the future. So today we would not be doing that. We'll do it in some time in the future, and I would like to conclude the session here only. So thanks everyone, and if you guys have any doubts or something you would like to clear up, you are welcome.
So is there any tutorial where I can see like what are the algorithms available in SageMaker and what is the purpose of those algorithms? Like,
So there.
business case wise. Like,
So there is no tutorial. I mentioned, I gave you a link. It is there in this. So you can probably use this link and go ahead and look into the documentation. So all the algorithms that are there have been mentioned in this documentation. You can go ahead and read about those algorithms. Most of the like image related, video related, speech related tasks are done using model in today's world, and decision based tasks are done by classical machine learning. So if you want to classify something, make a decision, make a prediction, that is done using classical machine learning. So XGBoost, random forest, and those algorithms. Everything, all the scripts are provided by SageMaker. You can go ahead and check out the notebooks. There will be a notebook wherein the entire workflow of, let's say, SVM is mentioned. You can pick that up, use bits of code, and just test out your thing
so
in
for
your
learning
notebook.
purpose, I think I can pick up the data set from Kaggle
Yes.
and I can use the pre-trained model from
Yes.
there, and I can just
Yes, you can experiment with that in the SageMaker notebooks because it will provide you the GPU that you need. Probably you can do that in Kaggle as well, but SageMaker provides you integrated tools with wherein you can keep your data in S3 probably, and then you can pull that data out of S3, save your model again in the another bucket or something like that. So yeah, anyone have any doubts? You can probably ask it now.
Like just for like learning and enthusiast purpose, how does this compare to something like Google Colab? Because they also have a very generous rate here, where
Yes.
they provide a 10-13 for free.
So a lot of people, I personally also I use a lot of Colab during the development. So Colab is a wonderful platform. So if you want to pursue, like if you want to practice problems, Kaggle is a good platform. If you want to put your code into like deployment phase or you're doing a production level task, AWS would be good. And if you want to develop, then Colab is the best platform. Colab or maybe Kaggle also. So in some places Colab is slower than Kaggle. So I've noticed this over time. So you can probably go ahead and use Kaggle as well for your GPU related tasks. You can run it for 2 to 3 epochs and then you can place it in training on AWS or somewhere. So when we develop models, we write script, test it for a few epochs in Colab or Kaggle or anything, and then we place it in Kaggle in AWS for a longer period of time. So that is the process.
How generous is the free tier on SageMaker? Does it even have a free tier and how?
So like SageMaker doesn't have as good tier as compared to Kaggle and Colab. Most of the people use that only. So like people don't use generally SageMaker for practice. It is just for the production purposes only. So when the companies want to like put their models on the like deployment front, they use SageMaker and these utilities. But you can use the code base that is for free. You can probably use this.
Two more things. SageMaker Canvas is also there. Maybe you've heard of it. It's more of a not really there yet, but it's like a no-code option. So try seeing other options apart from SageMaker because SageMaker is like production level thing. So there are other options as well. SageMaker Canvas is like code. You can explore that also.
But in practice, if you look into that, mostly Colab and Kaggle are the go-to when it comes to development.
Like I think I want to on this, and then if I want to make it live on the AWS cloud now, so like, can I just do it on SageMaker or is there any other service?
So you can, like if it is a high computational model, you can go ahead with a GPU, but GPUs are pretty costly nowadays. So like if like we as a company also use some part in GPU and some part we put it in the one that has a lot less load, we put it in SageMaker. So SageMaker has a serverless option wherein you can pay as you use, right? So we have kept certain part there and certain part we've kept it in the GPU. So if you have a high demand and a lot of people are using your model, then you can place it probably in a GPU to give a faster response. So the inference time would highly reduce on a GPU. And SageMaker will initialize it every time so that GPU.
Like the model is basically a live model wherein it's trained on a certain data set earlier that is currently working. And when certain amount of data is fed again, like what happens when the user feeds in the data, we get an output using machine learning model, and that is stored into our database.
Acha.
Once our database has again sufficient amount of data, our model retrains itself. So I just wanted to take some suggestion. What kind of pipeline can we exist on the MLOps part on the AWS?
I think
We are using S3 bucket for storage, and currently it's on
so
but now we are
you are going for a semi-supervised approach, if I understand it
Yes,
correctly.
semi-supervised.
Okay.
Yeah, we can connect later on to discuss this. Right?
On the this front. So we'll have a workshop also anyway. So I think you'll be able to understand better when we do it actually.
Yeah. Thank you, Ishan, for this wonderful session on AWS.
Thanks everyone.
So, other sessions you are interested
if you want what topics like how many of
Exact
them.
number.
So as of now, we have a problem. How
We
to,
can
like,
give you the welcome drink basically. Pina colada.
And I hope that next Saturday, I mean second Saturday of next month, you all will be coming again. Because we are now asking you to choose a topic. And we'll choose a popular topic or suggestions that we got. So I hope to see you again. basically. And time for snack.
So we'll prepare the food and
Yeah,
you know, that
yeah.
just allow us maybe just we'll confirm.
So for this AWS cloud cluster, you mentioned that you should know everything about AWS.
There are two types of leadership. One is